Mount Everest, the highest place on Earth. At this altitude, helicopters lose power, birds struggle to fly, and humans can barely survive. But hidden among these frozen mountains lives a creature weighing less than a paperclip, a tiny bee.
Scientists discovered that this incredible insect can fly at altitudes even higher than Mount Everest itself. How can something so small survive where almost everything else fails? The answer is one of nature's greatest engineering miracles.
Mount Everest rises 8,849 meters above sea level. Above 8,000 meters begins what's known as the death zone. Here, oxygen levels are only about 1/3 of those at sea level. Every breath becomes a struggle.
Temperatures plunge below -40 degrees centigrade, and powerful winds can exceed 150 kilometers per hour. For humans, staying alive here requires months of training, expensive equipment, and bottled oxygen. Even many birds avoid flying this high. So how could a tiny bee possibly survive?
Yet, hidden among these frozen Himalayan peaks lives a creature so small most people would never even notice it. An Alpine bumblebee.
It weighs less than a paperclip, but survives in one of the harshest environments on Earth. At altitudes where oxygen is dangerously low and temperatures can drop below -40 degrees Celsius, this tiny insect continues to fly, forage, and pollinate flowers. Unlike most insects, it doesn't simply endure the cold, it has evolved to master it.
Its thick layer of insulating fur traps precious body heat. Powerful flight muscles generate warmth before takeoff, almost like a built-in engine warming up. Its broad wings are specially adapted to produce lift in the thin mountain air, where flying becomes incredibly difficult. Every tiny detail of its body has been shaped by millions of years of evolution, turning this humble bee into one of nature's greatest high-altitude survivors.
But scientists soon discovered something even more astonishing. This bee wasn't just surviving near Mount Everest. It might actually be capable of flying above it.
For decades, scientists believed insects had a hard limit. Above a certain altitude, the air becomes so thin that wings simply can't generate enough lift. By that logic, a bee should never be able to fly anywhere near the height of Mount Everest. But science isn't built on assumptions. It's built on experiments.
Researchers carefully collected alpine bumblebees and brought them into a laboratory. Instead of taking the bees to extreme altitudes, they recreated Everest's atmosphere inside a specialized low-pressure chamber. With every adjustment, the air became thinner, oxygen dropped, and air pressure continued to fall. The conditions became more extreme than almost any insect would ever experience in the wild. Everyone expected the bees to stop flying. But something incredible happened. Inside the chamber, the air had become unbelievably thin, similar to the conditions found near the summit of Mount Everest. Most insects would have failed instantly. Scientists watched carefully, expecting the bee to remain grounded. Instead, it began warming its flight muscles. Its wings started vibrating faster and faster. Then, against every expectation, it lifted off. Not for a second, not by accident, but with complete control. The Alpine Bumblebee continued flying in air so thin that many scientists believed insect flight should have been impossible. The experiment challenged long-standing assumptions about the limits of flight. Nature had once again proven to be far more extraordinary than anyone imagined. At first, this discovery seemed like nothing more than an incredible biological curiosity. But to engineers, it represented something far more valuable: a blueprint. The Alpine Bumblebee solves a problem that has challenged scientists for decades: how to generate efficient flight in extremely thin air. By studying the structure of its wings, its powerful flight muscles, and the way it controls body temperature, researchers hope to improve the next generation of aerial technology. One day, these tiny insects could help engineers design drones capable of flying in high mountains, or even in the thin atmosphere of other worlds. Nature has already solved problems that humanity is only beginning to understand.
When most of us think about the toughest animals on Earth, we imagine wolves, eagles, or polar bears. But sometimes, the greatest survivors aren't the largest or the strongest. Sometimes, they're small enough to fit in the palm of your hand. High above the clouds, where oxygen is scarce and survival seems impossible, this tiny bee continues its ancient journey. A quiet reminder that nature doesn't reward size, it rewards adaptation. And perhaps the greatest engineering genius on Earth has been flying beside us all along.